Up next, here's Chuck with another fantastic interview for VOE.
Hi, this is Chuck Gallagher with VOE. My guest is Shep Hyken. And Shep, first, thank you for taking the time to be here on VOE. How long have you been involved with NSA?
Since 1988.
Since 1988. So, for purposes of what we're doing here today, my first question is, what got you initially involved in deciding NSA was a home?
Sure. Well, number one, in about 1983, I started my business. In about 1984, 85, a guy said to me, "You need to join NSA." His name was Tom Riley. And it took a few years, but he finally convinced me to come to my first meeting, which was June of 1998. And John Hammond, who was president of NSA at the time, was our speaker that day. And I walked in and I had no idea what to expect. And that day I paid my dues for the chapter, my dues for national, and committed to going in 2 or 3 weeks to the national convention that was just going to be a few weeks later in Phoenix, Arizona. I said, I can't believe I've missed this. So it took about 5 years of being in business before I got smart and came to NSA. And every convention I go to is great. I have not missed a convention once since then, so now it's Influence, but back then. But I will tell you, the first one's always the best one.
Oh yeah.
I took away 2 full notebooks of just handwritten notes, single-spaced. I still have those notes. And ever since, I mean, I have in my pocket right now the notes from this morning's presentation and yesterday's meeting I went to. Phenomenal opportunity, and it is family.
You speak about amazing customer experiences.
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I guess I have 2 primary questions that I think would benefit the membership. The first one would be, as speakers, and you've been doing this now a while, for decades, what do we need to do to create amazing customer experiences?
Wow. Great question. So if speakers came to me as clients, what I would suggest is, number one, they have to define what they want that experience to be. And some speakers might say, well, I just want to be really easy to work with. Others might say, you know what, I've got a really bit of celebrity status. I want my team to be easy to work with. I just want to go and do my gigs, okay? And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that, and that's a lot of times what clients pay for. So define what the experience needs to be, or what you want it to be, what you want the client to perceive you to be. And then, me personally, I'll just share what my experience is. I want to be the easiest guy in the world to do business with. I want to be that speaker that they never have to worry about. So we have constant checkpoints along the way, touch points where we know we're going to touch base with them X amount of weeks out to do our content call, let them know flights have been booked a week before, let them know I'm still alive, on location, I've landed, I'm on my way to the hotel. What time's the sound check? If it's 7 a.m., I'm there at 6:45. That's the type of experience I want them to have. And when we get finished, aside from just being a good speaker, and I hope I nail it that day, although hope is not a strategy. So, when we're all said and done, and I get my feedback call, which I always do a feedback call, always want to get response and find out, hey, were you happy with not only the speech that I did, but the experience that we had together? And I want that all to be good or great. And so that's what we do. And it's very methodical. It's a process. I would like it to be more of like the machine that's well-oiled, but every event and every speaking opportunity, sometimes it's different. Sometimes they want you for a half an hour. Sometimes they want you a half an hour and a CEO debrief at the afterwards. So you can't do the same contract for everybody. You can't treat everybody exactly the same, which makes this business a lot of fun. Especially fun if you want to train new employees on what your business is like, because there's nothing that's really ever the same, it seems.
With the incredible success you have, I'm going to pull the curtain back a little bit. You can take it far back as you want.
I'm very open, you know that.
What do you do in terms of outbound marketing?
Sure. So great question, and it started with smile and dial. Pick up the phone and smile. By the way, 1988, first convention I go to, Phoenix, Arizona. First session on marketing that I go to is how to direct mail and never use the phone again. Next session, how to use the phone and never waste your money on direct mail again. And so, which one of these is right? Well, they're both right. There's pieces and elements of everything. So back then, I took that to heart. I picked up the phone, I created my list of 100 people, and I used to make those calls. And then I hired an assistant. She would help me make those calls. And there's a certain point in your career where you've got to give a little distance between you doing the marketing and sales and having somebody else do it for you, which means you're still accessible, but you're not necessarily making that first call to that client. It's really somebody setting up an appointment.
Right.
And that's totally cool. But we created that list. And then all of a sudden, social media came around. And what that allowed us to do, I mean, I remember, gosh, here's a great way to get booked. Let's see if I can get into a magazine, like a franchise magazine of like a pizza chain. And what I'll do is I'll try to sell my articles free of charge, sell them to use my articles. And I'll create a series. And what I did is I created a series of 18 articles, and I said, here's a year's worth of articles. Well, there's 18, we only have 12 issues. Exactly. You choose the 12 out of the 18, because I know at least 12 out of these 18 are spot on for your people, and you can modify them if you want, but really that's what they did. My thought was get into these magazines, and 3 or 4 months later, call who's in charge of the meeting, because by then they'll know who one of their columnists are in the magazine. So where did I get this idea? Every summer, for years, I would go to the schools, the colleges around St. Louis, Missouri, where I live, and ask who wanted a summer internship. Somebody from WashU, St. Louis University, good schools. And here's how we did it. Come to my office, learn what I do, okay? Call and ask questions, but when you come, tell me what you want to do for me that you think would help me get more business. And this gal came to my office, young gal. She was from Louisville, Kentucky. I'll never forget. And she says, my dad owns a restaurant. It's a franchise. If you get into his franchise magazine, I can get your articles placed in there. A few months later, you can call the person in charge of the meeting. They'll know who you are. That's brilliant.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, but today we don't have to do content marketing like that. Today we can just post onto the internet. So I am today, still we smile and dial a little bit. We always keep in touch with people. We don't necessarily make the outbound cold calls. And I talked about this earlier at our conference here, but here's what we do. On Sundays, I have a column in Forbes, which is one of the coolest things. And by the way, you can get into many different publications, but to have a steady, every week, consistent column, so that's Sundays. I write about an 800,000 word article every week.
800,000 words.
800 to 1,000.
Okay, I was like,
yeah,
oh my
I'm
gosh.
going fast. I'm talking fast.
I was thinking my hearing aid in my head.
800 to 1,000. Sometimes it's 700, sometimes it's 11, 1,200.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's very easy to find content today to write about. And I stay in my lane. It's always about customer service and experience, something very tightly related to that. On Monday, I write an article, easiest article I write. Anybody can do this. My 5 favorite articles that I read from the week before. So I have a Google alert sending me all these articles every day, and I just go through as I read 10, 15 articles a day. Oh, this one might make my top 5 list. And then sometime on Friday, I look over and I go, okay, here's 5. I like these. I like this article because blank. I just a couple, 3 sentences, link to it. By the way, the author of the article loves when I do this, but my audience loves to see what I think's great. And it's all about, it could be direct frontline customer service. It could be what happens in a support center. It could be, it's all tied to customer service and what I do.
Right.
Any speaker can do this within their discipline. On Tuesdays, I do a podcast. Oh, that sounds like a lot of work. Just do it. And here's the thing, don't even worry if a lot of people are listening to it. I do it for 3 reasons. Number 1, it is alignment with my brand and more of me being positioned as, for the brand.
Sure.
Number 2, does it get me money? Absolutely does, because I incorporate, sometimes if you hire me for a speech, I'll do a podcast, and you can share this podcast with your employees or with your customers. And so we can tie it in and monetize it different ways. But the most important way I do it, the 3rd way, is that I love talking to people, just like you're talking to people and getting information. I learn from my guests. And sometimes it's an executive at a big company. I just interviewed the senior VP of customer service for all of Comcast. That's a big company. I've done this for a number of other big companies, or some technology, or it's just a great friend of ours at NSA that has a book that's coming out that ties to customer service. So there's where I'm getting the content for that. Wednesdays, I write another article. It's a tactical tip. It's about, I try to keep it at least above 400 words, because then it becomes an article. Even though I post it on the blog, it gets picked up by 12 to 15 publications every week. And I also use that to send out to my newsletter list. On Thursdays, I do a video, and it's the video based on the blog. So you see, I'm repurposing.
Okay, right.
And what I do is when I write the blog, I write it in a style that's hopefully great to read, but also I can read it in a teleprompter and shoot a video. It takes about 3 minutes, 3-minute long video, and we do that every week. I'll usually do 4 and 5 at a time, and then we just release them over the next month. Friday, guest post. So we have somebody else come in who's a customer service expert, fellow NSA member, or perhaps one of these companies, their PR company wants to write an article and have it placed. And then Saturday, random video, whatever. But now Instagram has just announced in the last month or so that you can put video on Instagram as long as it's under a minute. So I went back and I looked at all of the content that I've written, and I said, this is easy. What have I tweeted? Thousands of tweets. So I've pulled 52 really good tweets, and then I wrote the whole thing's 150 words. Hi, Shep Hyken here, customer service and experienced speaker. My 1 minute tip is, and then I do my quote, and then I do 2 or 3 sentences, and I say, hope you enjoy the tip. We'll be back next week with another. So that's going on Instagram. It's a video. It'll also go on my YouTube channel. And so I repurpose everything. But now, how long does that take to do? It took us 1 day to write 52 of those tips. That's it, 1 day. I got them all. And now, how long is it going to take for me to do? Because we got them on a teleprompter. They're going to we're not stopping. We're going to do next, next, next. I anticipate I'll probably have to do a few of them more than once. It might take an hour and a half.
Right.
Okay, but I got 52 weeks of content right there. And we'll just release them one a week. So I am relentless in my focus on its drip, content marketing, and I'm filling up that bucket. Once you've got that bucket filled, you got to keep filling it because water evaporates, right? Okay, so keep filling it, keep putting more content in there. Your position as a thought leader, you'll stay a thought leader. And if times get tough, pick back the phone again, because what happens is there's always going to be people having meetings, just fewer people. So if the economy starts to get a little rocky, we're going to be back to doing it, but that thought leadership piece is already in place. And so that's really how I kind of run my business and drive speaking engagements and the other types of revenue sources that we have.
Shep, okay, that was awesome.
That
was awesome.
Thank
That's
you.
one of the things on VOE you need to listen to over and over again, because each day has a purpose and you're doing something for each of those days. That's fascinating. Shep, let me ask you one other last question. I know that you are creating your business as a scalable form. You've got virtual training.
We do.
Give us some advice on how do you take your content, put it into a virtual world that people choose to buy.
Sure. And it really, my speaking revenue model, if you would, and we'll call that my speaking business revenue, is about half of it is keynote speaking, and the other half is training, some of which is online training and some of which is on site. So back in 2001, big thing happened on 9/11 that year. Big.
Right.
We, at that point, I don't know about you, but all of these speaking engagements were canceled, like
Right.
in a matter of a day. Everything in the next 2-3 months, done. And I thought to myself, we're one more terrorist attack away from the complete annihilation of the speaking business. Nobody's going to go to a resort and hire a speaker to come in, at least not for a long time, if something happens again. What can I do to combat that? So I said, I'll go get into training, because then I can go to the office. I don't have to, it's not a resort. I don't know what kind of money I'll make, but hey, if it really gets bad, I got to go somewhere, right, and make a living. And
Right.
So I hired a course designer to rewrite all my keynote content, my book content, and turn it into a training program. They help me. It's all my stuff, and they help me create some exercises. And then I did it, and I hated it. It was the worst day of my speaking. I don't know. I mean, I might have been okay, but I didn't feel good doing it. So when I say it's okay to be uncomfortable, but no, I really didn't feel good doing it. So I started hiring other trainers to deliver my material. And this was brilliant. All of a sudden, now I'm doing my speeches and I'm booking other trainers to do Shep's material. So it's not like I'm hiring and subbing, say, hey, go do something. No, they're doing my content.
Right.
So when the online concepts came around, and I got involved on the board of an online learning company before it was in vogue, and it was really expensive to put a system into a company. And today, boy, you can go to I'm on the Lightspeed VT platform, but there's very inexpensive platforms that are virtually free to get into. But you just have to choose what you want to do and the quality level you want to do it. So I went into an online program. It was working for a while. Then Lightspeed came along and showed me a different business model. Very expensive to get into, but I ran the numbers. I said, I think I can make my money back easily in the first year. I did in the first 6 months. So by doing this, you're creating a revenue source that's quite different, unique. And here's why. I am finding, and it took me a long time to crack the code on this, just recently, I spent a lot of time with Lightspeed's owner, Brad Lee is his name, and we tried a new pricing structure with the idea that there's a number of small companies, millions and millions of them, under 10, 20 people that could never afford my normal license. So let's create something for them. It's all the same content that we sell to a big corporation, and we created a pricing structure. It gets less expensive as there's tens of thousands of people potentially,
Sure.
but it's really inexpensive if you have 10 or 15 people. And all of a sudden it's like, boy, I looked at the board last week, 7 new clients, all buying, or actually I say last week, from the beginning of the month. I just happened to look at it last week.
Right.
And I said, and I looked at our office, the other board, 7 new clients, yeah, and they're all those little tiny companies that could never afford the other license. That is an underserved market. Now granted, they're not going to pay me to come out and do a keynote speech, okay? But it's all in the mix. So we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So you need to be nimble, and you need to be able to be flexible, and you need to adapt. And the only way you're going to do that is to have enough diversity in your business model that you can maneuver around a rocky economy. We're in a great economy right now. I'm not sure exactly when this segment's going to come out, but if it came out next week, you'd say, wow, the last few years have been unbelievable. But you know what? Who knows what's going to happen? We're one Twitter post away from the economy doing something funny, or maybe the economy is just going to start to correct itself. And when that happens, companies lose confidence. And one of the first things they cut are their trips to resorts, the budgets they have with speakers. You have to have a diverse platform, if you will, to be able to sustain all of these types of ups and downs in the world.
Shep, your contribution to NSA is invaluable.
Well, thank you very much. I'm honored to be able to serve.
Well, it really is. So one last question as we wrap things up. For the people that would be listening, perhaps maybe they are new to NSA, not necessarily new to speaking, but new to NSA, what advice would you give a speaker that you feel would help propel them to the next level?
Do not miss a conference. Do not miss a winter meeting. Go to as many local chapter events as you can. By the way, if you see a topic that you know you're not going to be interested, fine, don't go. But take advantage of the resources that we have, and that's all you do. I've convinced many people to show up at NSA, and they show up and they went, wow, I had no idea.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
Shep, thank you so
All
much.
right, my pleasure.
I appreciate
Good to see
it.
you, man. Thank you for having me.